Hi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to Football Talks. Week 7's in the books, and we're on to week 8. I'm joined by Bill as always. Say hello, Bill.
Hey, hey there, guys. What is up?
All right, so this is take number 2. I have a new microphone as I mentioned in the power rankings video, and let's just get right into it. We're gonna talk the Dallas Cowboys because there were only 2 games to talk about today. And Dallas, I mean, everyone said the 49ers were like the most painful losing team right now because they've lost many games by 2 or 3 points. This one, 30 points. Just add a 0 to that average, and that's what you got because the 49ers got blown out at home. I don't even know if there were much 49ers fans to begin with. I want to
Yeah,
say there are more Cowboys fans. I feel like
I
there
mean,
should be.
that stadium was empty. It legit was legit empty.
Oh yeah,
It reminded me of a Los Angeles game.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gives the Chargers a lot of crap, which I'm not against. But I think that the real team that doesn't get their fans showing up is San Francisco. That might be because they have a bigger stadium, so you see a lot of more empty seats, but
Well,
it's not good.
yeah, it's a bigger stadium, and the other thing is that they're not a good football team and haven't been a good football team in a few years. So it puts a strain on the fan base, and yes, it did seem like there was a lot more Dallas Cowboy fans in the stands.
Oh yeah, the bandwagon fans are coming back now because the Cowboys are 3-3. But I was gonna say, it makes the 49er fan think, should they have taken Trubisky instead of Solomon Thomas? I think they're fine the way they were because, to be honest, I'd rather build the pieces. I'd rather get my roster fixed out before I got a quarterback because if I just got my quarterback when I had nothing, I'm basically doing what I did to what the Houston Texans did to Derek Carr or David Carr, excuse me. They ruined his career because they did not have anything to help him out. Even when they drafted Andre Johnson, what else? Your offensive line was trash. So I'm not against what they're doing, but I feel bad for the fan in San Francisco that has to deal with this horrid crap for a whole year before they get a quarterback. But you know, Bill, good news for them. This draft has a lot of good quarterbacks this year, so surely they'll
Oh
have
yeah,
somebody save their franchise next season, maybe.
right. And let's just put it this way: San Fran needs a quarterback. They also need a defense because Ezekiel Elliott was ripping them apart the entire game.
It wasn't just Zeke through the air. They had some pretty good throws. I know there was like Dez actually when there was a few catches where Dez just completely owned some of the secondary. In fact, I think he actually got one injured. But actually, speaking of Dez, there was a touchdown catch that didn't go his way again, I believe, which makes you wonder: is the NFL out for Dez's blood? Because I feel like he's made so many catches that are that need to be reviewable, and yet some that you think he catches, they're not catches, and then when they're clearly not catches, they're like, oh, it's a catch. I just
It,
don't think the NFL knows. They're giving. I guess Dez is the new Megatron, the one player that's like, is this guy's catch actually a catch? I don't know. Let's go behind the booth. Because remember, Bill, how would things be different if the Lions had a few Megatron catches go their way?
right. I mean, that Chicago game that should have been a win. They could have made the playoffs. I mean, uh, or had a start of a season. They could have started the season 1-0, and it could have cost Jim Schwartz his job. I mean, uh, the the freaking catch in the playoffs or the catch in the playoffs for Dez that could have eliminated the Green Bay Packers. I mean, there's so much that can change with those catches being turned into nothings, and it's just ridiculous that the NFL allows this to happen.
Yeah, I will say though, it's just fortunate for the Cowboys that they didn't need to worry so much about passing the ball because Zeke was doing just fine. He was playing like he was when he was like how he was last year, but I would say was rookie of the year caliber performance. Dak, however, was actually doing pretty solid as well. Ran in for a touchdown. I swear, I think he has that one type of play when they do it. it hardly ever fails. The one where you give it you pretend to give it to Zeke, and that'll draw away the player that like the linebacker that's watching you, because typically when you have mobile quarterbacks, every defense is going to leave at least one linebacker to watch over the quarterback, see if he runs. And
Right.
if you bait him, if you even make him take a step the other way, you probably have won that fight if you're fast enough.
Right. Yeah,
Because
I agree.
and here's the problem: can you truly fault the linebacker for that? The linebacker has to be aware that he might have actually given him the ball, because if he didn't, what if he goes? What if he did? You're basically, you might be screwed either way. But I like how mobile Dak is, and honestly, as long as he doesn't need to keep doing it, he can be more dangerous than someone like, say, Cam, who I can't wait to joke about later on.
Right. But Dak, as his career goes on, he's on turn from he's gonna be more of a Russell Wilson type than a Cam Newton type.
Well, yeah, well, I mean that's why we
Dak
all
is
say Russell's better than Cam, right?
Oh yeah, Dak and Russell both know how to throw from the pocket, which Cam has no ability to do.
And extend
He's
plays. That to me is also important.
yeah, but not extend plays and run it out and be like, oh, you know what, I'm done, break my leg, RG3 style, or you know, you're extending the play but looking downfield for a big shot to your wide receivers, because those are the sort of plays that'll be the bigger dagger to a team rather than allowing a quarterback to run for a first down. Oh, he ran for a first down, we can get him next time.
Yep. The defense did pretty well, but to be fair, this was a CJ Beathard. I don't know how you say his last name. It's not how you think it's pronounced. That's all I know. And basically, I think the 49ers are just a quarterback away from being, I wouldn't say like playoff contenders or anything, but they have to have a chance at winning those games. Give them a decent quarterback, they would probably have won at least 3 of their games by now. They wouldn't be 0-7.
Very possible.
I mean, I think we can all agree. You put the 49ers against the Browns, I think the 49ers are going to win 3 out of 5 games against them.
Oh yeah.
But
I would agree.
But anyway, either way, I liked what I saw out of the offense, but there is something to note. There's still the crap with Zeke, and to be honest, I like what you were. I think you were saying it with Brady a long time ago, back when Deflategate was a thing. But I don't know if you said it, but you might have said that no matter what, that Goodell was going to try his damnedest to make sure Brady got suspended, so the Patriots couldn't go to a Super Bowl. But look how that went.
Right, and he's going to continue to do that with Ezekiel Elliott. Eventually, that 6-game suspension is going to be having to be served. And the later he pushes this off, the closer it gets to the end of the year. If they make, and just think, let's say he pushes it back into November with the hearing, he could, let's say they make the playoffs, he could miss a playoff game because of this.
Yeah, right.
So,
if he took the suspension right now, he wouldn't come back until at least after Thanksgiving.
Right. I mean, that's a better thing than waiting a month and keep appealing, and then you get your hearing in mid-November and you're at a point where you're like, oh, you know what, I can't appeal anymore. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm losing a playoff game against a team. You're putting your team secondary behind yourself. I know Ezekiel thinks he's, innocent, quote unquote, but you know what? He's got an issue, and this issue could really put his team's playoff hopes in jeopardy.
Yep, if he took it now, I still think they might have gone the same record, maybe. But if they took it now, he would have come back just in time when the games start getting tough, like at Washington. That probably would have been his first game. Yes, it would have, if he took the suspension from the beginning. He would be back from here, and there would be nothing else to get in his way. No one else could possibly try to find a way to give him more time. Which, I say at this point, better late than never, because these are when the games really get tough. But on that note, Bill, before we move on to the Patriots game, let's talk about a little segment because there's only two teams to talk about this week. We decided to do a report card. Basically, Bill and I are going to give grades on how the teams that we have are doing so far. Are they meeting expectations, or are they surpassing or underachieving? And Bill, I'll go first with this one. I'm going to give the Cowboys I think I'm going to give them a B minus because the defense is playing about as much as I expected. Very bad. Even though they had a good game today, this was against the 49ers. This is not that impressive. But
Right.
I think they're going to get really tested starting this week. I mean, the Chiefs and the Falcons, then to the Eagles, is going to be the worst grind of games that you'll probably get to see in that time frame. I don't think any other teams are going to have as much of a dangerous skid than that because you're playing the two of the best teams of their respective conferences. Not easy, but the offense has been a bit underwhelming. I mean, it took a while now, but it's been getting better. I think it started out slow after week 1 from Denver to Arizona to LA and then to Green Bay. The offense took a long time to start churning, and now I feel like just when it's about to get good, you might lose Zeke again. So,
Yep.
it's going to be a rough month for the Cowboys really after this.
Oh yeah.
What about you?
Definitely. I gave them a B minus. They're about right where I thought they would be. Again, it's a B minus because the defense is terrible. The offensive line isn't what it used to be, and like you said, Ezekiel Elliott is going to be gone at some point, and that offense is going to grind to a halt, and it's just overexpose that defense again. So they're in some rough water right now.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, now let's talk about a team that I wouldn't say they're in rough water, but I think they've gotten out they gotten out of some turbulence. Well, to use a flying term, they've gotten out of some turbulent water for now, and that's New England. They've just taken out. I wouldn't say like an enemy. I would think of it as a one-sided rivalry because I don't think the Falcons showed up. I don't think they showed up because I know it was foggy all night, but I don't think the Falcons' offense was on the field at all. I think the defense only showed up. I think they might have gotten lost on the way to the stadium because it seems they didn't show up until the fourth quarter. But anyway, the Falcons were virtually shut out, only getting a touchdown in garbage time as the Patriots just cruised on over. Because, Bill, the running game is back. Rex Burkhead, my boy, is now, I don't know if he's healthy, but he's efficient again. And that's what this running game was missing all along.
Yeah, it missed the bruising back and the way he's built. He's just built low to the ground, hard to bring down. He keeps his legs moving. You're not going to bring him down. He's just a solid running back. He's a bruiser, and that's what they missed. Another thing that they really started to do is, really it was indicative on the last touchdown of the game that they did give up to Julio Jones. That should have been intercepted if not for Julio Jones ripping the football out of Malcolm Butler's hands. That should have been a pick.
Yeah,
to be fair.
I say credit to Julio because he's one of the more physical receivers, and I think he proved once again that's why he's one of the best.
Yeah, overall, the New England Patriots, they got a lot of contributions from Gronkowski, from Amendola, etc., this game, and they got a lot from Burkhead and Dion Lewis.
I would say here's a sneaky group that deserved the award. The defense. I mean, you think it'd be obvious considering they virtually shut him out, but just think about it. The Falcons they showed balls early in the game, going for it on fourth down on the first drive, and it worked. But they let the Falcons go anywhere they wanted on the field, but in the end zone. They did not let them get points. The first field goal blocked. Second field goal, which would have been a chip-in shot, went, I think, wide left or wide right. I don't remember. It just went wide. And after that, the Falcons just said, "Screw it, we have to go for touchdowns," and they didn't let them. There were two fourth and goal situations. One from the one that should have been. I don't know if you saw it, but there was that they tried to do what the Texans did last week against the Browns, where I think it was Braxton Miller going from the right to the left, and as he was passing by, the ball was snapped, and Watson handed him the ball, and he went in that way. They tried to do that, but the former Lion, Kyle Van Noy, just read that, and he went after him, and he denied the touchdown. I know that might have sounded a little confusing now that I think about it, but I think you get what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, they tried to do what Deshaun Watson did to the Browns last week, and it failed epically. I think Kyle Van Noy was watching that tape, but regardless, I give credit to that defense. I think they bent almost in 180 degrees, but they did not give any points until where it didn't even matter at that point.
Exactly. And, if you're playing horrifically bad on defense, and I think that's the best mentality to have, is to bend but don't break. If you're going to give up a lot of yards, at least give them up and not allow touchdowns to happen.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that many failed red zone drives in a while. For a second, you thought the Falcons were like the Cleveland Browns, who couldn't do anything. But no, it's just the Patriots were aware of these guys, and of course the Falcons, who normally choke on leads. You can't blow a lead, Bill, if you've never had it to begin with. Am I right?
Right.
So, good stuff by the Patriots. And I will say, well, when the game was all fogged up in the second half, and they actually had to use the behind camera for where basically you were seeing behind the quarterback when the ball was snapped. I won't lie, I like that camera angle because I get to see how the pocket is shaped, or if it breaks apart, a lot better than from the side. But I know nobody will like that for every game. It's more of a when you want to review the tape to break it down. But I kind of like that angle. I enjoyed it that much, a little bit. But anyway, on that note, is there anything else you'd like to mention about the Patriots, Bill, or shall we get to the report card?
Really, the Patriots overall just showed you why they're champions, and they really solidified their a lot of the issues that they had. I'm not completely sold on them, as we'll see in the report card, but they're starting to solidify as a team, and that it takes a little time, and they're the defending champions, so they're getting everyone's best game.
Yep, I think this is also a reminder that if you want to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC, you have to beat them. You have to play them.
Yep.
That
exactly.
Even if the Super Bowl doesn't run through Foxborough necessarily, but it does run through New England. It does run through this team, and I don't care what people say about Brady. He's still playing great even at his age. But anyway, Bill, how about you give your report card first?
All right. So I thought that, the New England Patriots have been doing a lot worse than where I thought they would be. So I gave them a B. Their defense through this amount of weeks has been horrifically bad. Last week was the first time the entire season that they haven't allowed a 300-yard passer. It was one of the first weeks that the defense actually showed up. So I'm going into this with the thought process that they could be turning a corner and starting to become something on defense again, but it'll be dependent on what I see with what they're going to be playing in this upcoming week, the Chargers, because Philip Rivers can pick you apart. So, I gave them a B. Their offense is dangerous. Their defense was horrifically bad. And their special teams is middle of the road.
I'm going to give them a B+. I don't know if I think that's my highest grade of all these teams, but I think, yes, they did bad for the first month, but I think everyone needs to remember September is usually the Patriots' worst month. But I think that they are just going to get better on offense. And defense, I don't know. You're right, because the Chargers game, I actually have that as one of my 5 games to watch this week, because it's going to be important for whoever wins, especially if the Patriots lose. But to me, that's not even the biggest game on their schedule. To me, the biggest game on their schedule that's still left is how do you do with the Buffalo Bills for both those games, and then the Steelers in Heinz Field. Whoever wins that one might very well have home field advantage at this rate, because the Steelers too have that philosophy of bend but don't break defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one shapes up. Right now, I still say Tom Brady's the best quarterback on the field. He won't get MVP this year because the NFL does never wants to give him MVP. They want to give it to somebody else, like in this case Carson Wentz. But I like what I see from the offense. It's just that defense needs to really gel and start keeping that consistency going, which we'll see how it is going forward. Anyway, Bill, let's move on to the other two teams who do not have games this week, but we shall go over them. So, Bill, how about you start with the Detroit Lions?
Okay, so my Detroit Lions, I gave them a B minus, and truth be told, they're about right where I thought they would be, if I was being realistic. Their offense is doing. They've had a lot of injuries. Their defense for the first 4 weeks was amazing. They should be 4-2, but if it weren't for one stupid call from a dumb referee crew, and they're about right where I thought they would be. Really, the New Orleans game I look at as an aberration because of just how many points were put up on Detroit, because up to that point they had been playing teams really good. Even Atlanta, even when they gave up the 30 points to Atlanta, they still they still played a very tough game against a really good team with a Devontae Freeman, a Julio Jones who was on a tear. Ever since that game, both Detroit and Atlanta have not been playing well. So I gave them a B minus just for the simple fact that they haven't looked right, but they're getting a lot of their players back minus Golden Tate.
I'm giving them a B minus as well. Though something to note, Kenny Golladay should play this week. All the players in the wide receiver group that are still healthy have been saying that he should play this week. And Golden Tate actually practiced today on the day of this recording. I don't think he'll make it, but if there's a chance, there's a chance. We'll see. And honestly, like I've said we're going to mention again later, I mentioned in the power rankings, but the Lions need all hands on deck if they want to handle the Steelers, because this is a team the Vikings couldn't beat, and you could beat teams that they couldn't. Well, it helps you in the long run because the Vikings now look like the team to beat for the NFC North, and the Lions need to keep up in every step with them. But that said, they are actually worse than I thought. I thought they should have handled the Saints no problem, though. Although the Saints are better than I expected, though, however, I still think they could have beat them. And the Falcons game, of course, that one went horrible. That was a wasted attempt at a hero pick, but that was not my fault. That was the ref's fault. Which remind me when I mentioned the other games, that Oakland game at the end. Oh boy! But anyway, regardless, the Lions have to really turn the ball here. They really need to turn and change things, because this is your best chance to win the division, because there's no Aaron Rodgers. The Bears are frisky, but I don't know if I should feel good about Trubisky, because he's not the reason they're winning games. But at least, I guess to a positive, he's not the reason they're losing. And the Vikings, I don't trust their run game, and they have so many question marks at QB right now. I would think if they can't settle on a good QB, they shouldn't win the division. But who knows? That's assuming the Lions are keeping up with them. The Lions need to keep up, and this is the right time. Beat a winning team, and that's that. But anyway, Bill, let's move on to Houston. Now this one, I'm going to give the Texans a B+. Had they still had Watt and Merciless, I would have given them an A-, but those injuries are the reasons why I cannot give the Texans an A. The Texans are actually doing, I want to say, worse than I thought, but I can't, because I did not. I actually expected Watson to make the Seattle game his first start. I thought the Texans were going to have Tom Savage ready or be done by this week. I thought going into the bye or going into that he was going to be taken out. But anyway, regardless, Watson's been playing way better than anyone expected. He's playing like how Dak was last year, except doing getting any kind of throw really. Remember, Bill, Watson's biggest criticism was that he could not throw a deep ball to save his life. So far, I've seen just that. Now they have a big test with Seattle, and good news for them, their team's getting healthier because Kevin Johnson might return this week. You already have Will Fuller back, and Dwayne Brown has stopped his holdout. Now that I think about it, though, Bill, I want to say Dwayne had to come back because the trade deadline is coming, and if he wanted to be traded to a team like, say, Seattle, he couldn't do it this week, but he would need to be on the active roster before the trade happened. But Bill, how do you feel about the Texans this year?
See, I've given them a B, and they're about right where I thought they would be. I thought they might have been a little bit better, but overall, considering that they lost two studs on freaking defense in J.J. Watt and Merciless, they still have an offense that is capable of putting up points. Deshaun Watson is a lot better than a lot of people have given him credit for. They got Will Fuller back. Having Will Fuller opposite of DeAndre Hopkins makes that wide receiving core just much more dangerous because you have to either single cover DeAndre or you have to single cover Will Fuller. And, I mean, unless you have CL-style corners, and, I mean, you still have to single cover someone.
Or the more important thing is you can't let Will Fuller get ahead of you. If he does, you're not catching him.
Exactly. I mean, really, and the running game's doing decently.
I think it's underrated, actually.
Yeah. The defense is actually, considering they're missing Cushing with a 10-game suspension and have injuries on the front line, and they don't have Boye, they have been looking pretty decent. They're not going to be the greatest squad this year, but they're going to be okay in middle of the road.
They're getting turnovers at least, and that's to me is just as important for a defense as it is getting all the, the top tier stats.
And special teams is right down the middle of the road as well. So, I think Houston's in a good spot. They're very much a B, and they could go to B+, A- territory because that division, they can beat up on the Indianapolis Colts. They can beat up on Tennessee. And Jacksonville is going to be the legit threat in that division.
Yeah, well, to be honest, Jacksonville's biggest enemy is themselves because they just can't seem to get over those games that they should win. It's what I've said. Jacksonville loves to win games. They're told not to win, and then they lose games. It's like, oh, you're the clear favorites. You can just take care of business and you're done. Nope. So to me, that will be the key. Can Jacksonville get past themselves? Because I know they have to go to Jacksonville later this year, but that's not the biggest game. To me, the biggest game on the road, at least, the most challenging is going to be the LA Rams. I don't even know about Seattle because to me, Seattle only plays half a game. Their offense only plays half a game once because they can't put up points. Sure, they can get in the red zone, but they were doing what the Falcons did. They couldn't even get in. It's like how do you keep messing that up? But anyway, I will say I think the Texans' run game is underrated because everyone only mentions it because oh look, Watson can run and go get a first down. That's not all it's for. Lamar Miller has been playing so much better because he's not. You don't need to just depend on him now. You have Deontay Foreman getting better it seems every week Deontay Foreman has a long 20-yard run. He can't quite get in the end zone, but I think sooner or later he's going to break out and just run over anybody to get his first touchdown this year. It could be this week, but when we get to the Seattle or the picks, I think for Seattle the biggest X factor that'll depend on if they win or lose is can they contain the run game. Can they stop both Foreman and Miller? Because to me, it's like if one falters, the other one steps up. You have to stop them both. But anyway, I will say the Titans. I really want to wipe them out from playoff contention because they are not looking the same. You went 9-9 against the Browns. You almost lost to Cleveland. Come on, man. Serious. Like I think the Titans are just a joke. The Colts are terrible without luck, and you and I agree on that. But yeah, they are not doing that well at all. So,
Right.
Bill, let's mention some other games because we're actually going through this really quickly for your sake.
Right.
So, okay, so there weren't that many games I want to make a note of. I think mainly 3.
And there's one thing I want to get off my chest as well.
Oh, did we talk about it on the first attempt? I want to make sure if I know about this.
Yep.
Oh,
We
it's the Raiders game, isn't it?
It's the Cleveland Browns game.
Oh yeah. Okay, you know what? We'll let you go to that one first, Bill. I'll give you that.
All right. So in the Cleveland Browns game that we just referenced, Deshaun Kaiser was taken out of the game in favor of Cody Kessler. And I have to just ask the question and I don't know what the hell the Cleveland Browns coaching staff is doing. The ownership group, the GM group, and the coaching staff. You have your franchise quarterback. Every other team that has ever had a franchise quarterback that they started in their rookie year, they left in there to learn on the job. Troy Aikman with the Dallas Cowboys went 1-15. Peyton Manning with the Indianapolis Colts went 3-13, had more interceptions than touchdowns in his rookie year. Let me think.
I got you one for you, man.
Matt Ryan. The list goes on and on.
I got Derek Carr as the most recent candidate. He lost 10 straight on his first game and then won 4 more after that. He won 4 straight to end the season.
Carson Wentz last year. He went through some growing pains. They didn't just bench him out of nowhere. They didn't make the playoffs. They started the season like 4-0 last year. The issue is the Cleveland Browns are consistently spending all their first round picks and then flushing them down the toilet every freaking year. You allowed Deshaun Kaiser to grow and let him prove to you why you spent a first round pick on him, just like Houston's doing right now with freaking Deshaun Watson. Watson is proving himself, and if he has a bunch of bad games, they'll know. They have a team that's built for the playoffs. They don't need to worry about it. The Browns know they're not going to the playoffs this year. Let Deshaun Kaiser become what he is. Don't keep taking him in, taking him out, and then shoot his confidence into the toilet. Keep him there. Allow him to learn from his mistakes. And if he's not mentally tough enough to handle the responsibility, then he doesn't belong in the league, and you move on from him.
Yep, but here's the reason why they have no excuse to go on for another quarterback if they don't have even if they don't have the number 1 overall pick, which I would actually be shocked if they don't this year, because you have 2 first-round picks now. You have Houston's pick, which, depending on how they do this year, they could either be, I don't know, let's say somewhere between 16 and 20, or they could be in one of the playoff spots. That's the best you can get. You're not getting them as a Super Bowl contender, most likely. I doubt it, even though I'm a fan. But you have no excuse to do this. Even if you somehow didn't get a top pick, you could easily say, hey, we want to get one of these quarterbacks, especially if it's like a team that doesn't need a quarterback, like the Colts. You say, hey, can we move up there so we can get a quarterback? We'll give you the Texans' first-round pick in exchange. I don't see why not. Obviously, you're going to get more than that, Bill, obviously. But, there's no excuse for them not to get a quarterback if Kaiser doesn't pan out. Although I do think I know why they had Kaiser benched. So I don't know if this is true. I heard somewhere, I heard it on a podcast, I think, that he was he was partying on Friday night. Which, if that's the case, great. It's another Johnny Manziel, except he doesn't do it every week. Which I can't say I blame him. Maybe he's partying to purposely get kicked by the Browns and go to another team. Because if that's the plan, part of me wouldn't blame him that much for it. Because
But
I mean, I remember you said it last time, Bill. Say that if you get drafted by the Browns, what do you do, Bill? What do you do?
if you get drafted by the Cleveland Browns, you don't sign the contract and you sit out a year. That's legit what I would do. I wouldn't allow myself to even play for the Cleveland Browns. I legit look at them as I was trying to give the New York Giants the worst organization award. I was doing my damnedest because they're 1-6 right now to look at some way to give them the worst organization because McAdoo's an idiot. But
Yeah.
the Cleveland Browns appear from the fog and they're like, hey, by the way, I'm still a terrible organization. I know that, and it just proves my point. You know, if Deshaun Kaiser was partying, you already had a party quarterback. Then why the hell are you drafting another one?
Yep.
Don't you guys do your damn homework? That's what you need to do.
Remember, Bill, they've skipped out on Carson Wentz, Deshaun Watson. I know everyone wants to say Dak Prescott, but I guess I'll put him in there but it's like saying every team skipped out on Tom Brady as well. So that's why I don't count those late round success picks like him and Russell Wilson, because you didn't expect good results right away. But anyway, I'm still gonna give my worst award to the Cowboys for Jerry Jones. Just like the national anthem protests are splitting us apart.
And I mean, legit. What do you ever hear from Deshaun Watson? How great of a guy he is. How down to earth he is. What do you hear about Carson Wentz? How good of a guy he is. How down to earth he is. Now, were you hearing that about Johnny Manziel? No. Were you hearing that about Deshaun Kaiser? No. Come on, guys. Let's use our goddamn brains for a little bit.
I mean, and this time, if they get the first overall pick, you can't fuck this up, man. You have 3 quarterbacks to choose from: Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. And it's like, at that point, it matters. It comes to a matter of how do we run our offense? Because depending on how we run this offense, that should tell us which quarterback we should get. I mean, you don't want to pick any of them. You could get the one they consider the best, but what if that one that's the best may not be the best for your system? But it depends. Something tells me they'll fuck that up too. But I don't know. I mean, I could call the Browns the worst organization this year, but that's such to me, it's an easy target at this point. You know what I mean? It is such a punching bag to say. But it's like saying, oh, look how bad Sonic 06 is. Everyone knows that. It's so easy. Let me try to find one that not many people talk about. In this case, I'm going to throw the Cowboys shade. Well, mostly Jerry Jones. But anyway, Bill, some of the games I did want to mention. So, you remember how we were talking earlier about how 49ers fans don't show up? In the Broncos-Chargers game, the few Chargers fans in LA that do exist, they actually missed out on a good game. The Chargers shut out the Broncos, and guess who's starting now? Brock Osweiler.
All 10 fans in attendance in San Diego.
They were in for a treat. The few 10, they were the privileged. They got to see a good game. Whereas the Broncos fans that were all there, I mean, let's give credit to the Chargers, because they've given up home status from San Diego to always play on the road. I mean, right. I don't know who does that. That is one of the most selfless actions, but you know what? Fuck you, Spanos. I mean, I could easily give him, actually, now that I think about it, Bill, I could still give him the worst award for that move. And the sad thing is, they may move back to San Diego.
What they need to do is, if they're gonna move from San Diego, don't go back to San Diego. Move your team to St. Louis.
Oh, no. That would be, I don't know how that would work. I mean, it'll be funny, but you know what? Let's see Phillip Rivers make the daily commute from San Diego to St. Louis.
That would not be a day. It'd be a day and a half in that freaking
Not in a plane, it would be.
limo thing.
Anyway,
Right.
next game. The Rams destroyed the Cardinals. Another shutout. There were 3 shutouts this week, and I will say the Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald, and possibly Bruce Arians' experience is over for Arizona.
Yep, I agree.
You want to know a fun fact, Bill? If you actually try to decide which is the worst franchise in NFL history, technically it's not the Lions and it's not the Browns. Even if you don't count the pre-Super Bowl era where the Lions and Browns were winning in the 50s, even if you don't count that, they're not the worst. It's actually Arizona. They are the most losing team. It's hard to believe, but if you look up the history stats of the entire franchise, even if you count when they were not from Arizona, they're the worst. And that's so horrible. They had a shot at a ring, and they got destroyed by Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh is a monster, the evil monster.
Before they won that playoff game and got to the Super Bowl that year, they hadn't won a playoff game since the 1940s.
Yep. Now after that, it was that. Now it's just down to the Lions and the Bengals for worst or for longest playoff drought. But to be honest, the Cardinals, I don't want to sound like it's a blessing because injuries I'm not supporting at all. But if they tank, they could go for one of those quarterbacks too. Which you get. I mean, out of all these bum teams, there are only 2 teams I think that are maybe you could say it's not that bad to go there. I would say it's both San Fran and Arizona because they already have pieces in place from both sides of the ball. It's better going there than Cleveland, if you ask me.
Yeah, but again, don't go to Cleveland.
Oh yeah,
just don't sign it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. If between those 2 teams, I'd go to Arizona, even if it is hot as balls there.
If it was me and I was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, I wouldn't sign the contract.
I wouldn't sign. I wouldn't sign either. I would basically do what Eli Manning said: trade me.
Because I know my career would have been over within 3 years.
Oh yeah. I'm not signing no contract. But anyway, Bill, the last game I want to mention, the Raiders and the Chiefs. The Thursday night game was the best game all week. And what a joy. It might be a potential Game of the Year nominee for many people looking back when the season's over. Because that ending, the final minutes were great. I mean, there was the fight earlier that got Marshawn Lynch ejected. Why did you push the ref, man? And,
yeah, seriously.
Yeah, you don't touch the ref. So there was that. And the game had 5 lead changes. The Raiders looked great. And I mean, Derek Carr looked great. Khalil Mack, even though he was quiet most of the game, there was a play where he just pushed a man. He just pushed a grown man with with a few fingers. That man, I feel like I could arm wrestle him against his hand or just his finger, and he'd still murder me. He'd still break my arm. Khalil Mack is a monster. I like calling him the Big Mac attack because that's what he is. He'll ram you and you won't want to get up. You want to stay down. But anyway, the Chiefs are in a bad spot. They've lost 2 in a row. I don't think they're in trouble. I still think they're fine. But that was a game that saved the Raiders' season right now because if you lost that, forget the division. Wild card status may even be out for you.
Yeah. The only good thing for the Raiders, and I agree that was Game of the Year, the good thing is Kansas City's falling back to earth, and both Denver and Kansas City are playing each other.
Yep.
So that helps Oakland.
Yeah, this is why I say the AFC West is the best division in football, because now the Chargers look frisky, the Broncos are dropping, and the Chiefs are dropping, the Raiders are rising. It's like the stock market or something. Everyone's going up and down on the stats, and it looks crazy. But anyway, the last drive never ended because there were a lot of flags called. There was that beautiful catch by Jared Cook, almost in for the end zone, but he did get touched. I don't think anyone contested that. But they basically gave the Raiders a favor because Golden Tate spotted this. Because they did do that archaic 10 seconds off the clock because the refs can't make sure what the play call is. Okay, guys. Anyway, so there was that. And then what happened next was Golden Tate said, how come they get all that time? I know they had 18 seconds, so you can't possibly screw them over, but Golden Tate pointed out that they had 11 seconds when he was ruled down. Or what? So they could have given the Raiders a second, or not the Raiders, the Lions one more second to snap the ball. You have all that time, while they're reviewing it. Every team should be like, okay, in case this doesn't work, this is what we do. For both sides, everyone knows if it doesn't work, this is what we do, and if it does work, this is what we do next. That stuff always happens when there is plays being reviewed. So the Lions basically got. It just reminds me that the Lions got screwed over hard, and that I don't know. Maybe Bill, are you understanding what I'm trying to say? Because I think I conveyed it on the first attempt.
Yeah. Basically, the Lions have a very similar situation to this Oakland drive, in which they could have gotten the ball off within the amount of time that the referees gave them left.
Yep. In fact, even if you gave the Raiders 1 second on the clock too, they got it off in time. As soon as the whistle snapped, they just called it. Because, like I said, when you have that time during that review, both teams convey, okay, this is what we do depending on whatever result we get. That's what happens. But anyway, I mean, I'm not taking away anything from the Raiders here, because I mean, you had too much time. You can't just turn 18 seconds into 0. If that happened, there would be hell to pay. I mean, there's already bad enough hell to pay with Detroit, but you turn 8 seconds to 0, everyone, even Raiders haters, would be like, "Wow, that's very bad. It's very shady." But regardless, the Raiders are now back in the race for the playoffs, I should say, not just a specific thing, but they're just in the race again. They needed it, and yeah. So, all right, Bill. Before we get to the picks, though, this happened today on the day of recording. Cam Newton, Mr. Dab, walked out of another press conference. He is doing what Marshawn Lynch would do, and he doesn't like talking to the media. But this is because, unlike Marshawn Lynch, who just hates the media in general, and he's always had that reputation, Cam, if Cam wins games, let's put it this way: when Cam's winning, he's running around the field like an airplane, all excited and dabbing on everybody. But when he's losing, he doesn't want to play the sport at all. He doesn't want anything to do with it. So he just got asked about. This was like one of the first questions done. He was just saying next question and left. After he got asked, what can you do to make the team's offense more consistent? Because you have the potential, seeing what you did to Detroit and New England. He said next question, and when the person was talking, he just walked out, and everyone was just confused. Bill, what are your thoughts on good old Cam, the sexist?
See, Cam Newton needs to. He's the face of the Carolina Panthers, and whether he likes it or not, he needs to put on a thing of leadership. And his leadership is leaving the press room. Now, what does that do for him? All that does is bring up questions to the rest of his teammates. Is there a lack of leadership due to Cam Newton? Yes or no? Now, that's going to be brought up to every single person in that locker room and asked repeatedly over and over and over and over again. They are going to consistently get the same questions, and it's going to be a giant distraction instead of playing football. If Cam Newton answers that question and say, we need just to, get back to what worked for us in New England and in Detroit, we were running the football really well. We did this, we did that. We converted a bunch of third downs. Give the typical shitty answer, the cliche answer. We'll get them next time, that sort of stuff. Nope, let's just walk out because we have a dearth of leadership, because we have no ability to lead your team. That's the reason why the Carolina Panthers lost in that Super Bowl. He is not leadership material. Ever since that MVP, he has been going downhill at a high rate of speed.
Yep, and I think it has to do with how he's being coached too, because his style is not working anymore. remember what we were saying. Russell Wilson has adapted since when he was younger. He do what you want, do what you do best, because we don't want to put too much on your plate. You're gonna learn new stuff, but you're gonna focus on what you're doing right now until you learn the new things. But Cam was just always do what you want, just keep doing it. You will win, and that's
Right.
why right now, and I think forever, I think Russell will be the better one between the two, because it's always been a debate who's the better mobile quarterback between him and Cam. But I
Cam
think
Newton.
most people will agree that Russell Wilson's the better one, for obviously not just because he has a ring, but
Yeah. Well,
what Bill?
Look at completion percentage. Look at touchdown to interception ratio. That that tells the story. Completion percentage. Russell Wilson's like 10 points ahead of him. Touchdown to interception ratio. Cam Newton's almost a 1-to-1, whereas Russell Wilson's almost a 3-to-1 sometimes. So that's the issue. He is not an accurate quarterback. He doesn't know how to read defenses. He only runs the football, and he hasn't learned how to play quarterback. Russell Wilson has learned how to play quarterback, and he's a leader, a great leader who takes even the stupidest question and answers it with a cliche saying, "Oh well, we did this, and hopefully we'll get back to that." That's all you have to do.
Yep. And yeah, that's why Cam is. I would say he would be one of the dumber players this year. I mean, obviously there was the whole thing with the woman talking about routes, which get out of here with that. But now you're just. To me, it's a matter of he knows this season's very shaky. But like I said, when you're winning and winning and winning, you have every reason to be happy. You can't blame him or anybody for that. Of course, you're excited when you're 15-1. Why wouldn't you be? But when you're losing, you need to know how to take it in stride. I mean, I'm not the best at taking I can be a sore loser at times. If you don't believe me, just see when I was losing to the Yankees in the ALCS. But I just know we can come out of this because there's more games to be played. There's more to be played, and it's not over yet until they say it's over. But anyway, Bill, my last thought on Cam, just focus on winning your games then. If you're tired of it, take the ball in your hands and win. That it's not. I know I'm making it sound easier than it is, but just win your damn games and keep your team spirits up even when you're losing. You're the leader. You do not want to be the one that looks all down and just wants to be out of here, because if you do, that affects everybody. But if you're trying to say we need to get back in this game, the buzzer hasn't rang yet. That means we can still play and we can still try and win this. But that's what good leaders will do. Don't believe me? Go ask people like LeBron, or go ask even the Cubs last year, or the Patriots. The teams that came back from deficits and made the other guys blow a big lead, because it's not over until they say it's over. But anyway, Bill, with that in mind, are you ready for the picks?
Indeed.
All right, Bill, start us off with Thursday.
All right. It is the Miami Dolphins at the Baltimore Ravens.
There we go. Okay, so I think I had Baltimore in my first attempt, but now I'm definitely going to stay with Miami. But I think that they're 4-2, but they don't even need their offense to do much. With Matt Moore in there, I feel like they are a much better run team for now. Don't know how far this will get them, but right now I'm thinking the Dolphins are going to look really good this week.
Yeah, Miami's a better team with Matt Moore. The Baltimore Ravens are terrible with Joe Flacco. The Ravens can't run. The Ravens can't pass. I got the Miami Dolphins as well. All right, the London game at 9:30 in the morning. The Minnesota Vikings at the Cleveland Browns.
Oh man, yikes. I think the Browns are going to get shut out this game. Minnesota's defense might put up more points than their offense this week. I've got Minnesota.
I also got Minnesota. Their defense is going to the Vikings could have more interceptions than the freaking Browns have quarterbacks in this freaking game. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons at the New York Jets.
I've got Atlanta. I think that they're going to finally bounce back, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets win.
I got the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're gonna find their groove against the Jets, and they're gonna get Julio involved early and often. Next up, the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I'm going to go with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has been playing it close. I think they're due for a win, and it's at home against the Panthers team who doesn't look good. And plus, I just want to stick it to Cam because he is a player to hate for me. I'm going Bucks. Go Jameis.
I'm going Carolina, even with what Cam said. I just, Tampa Bay has stung me in the past. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers at the Philadelphia Eagles.
San Fran is walking into a buzzsaw. They're going to get murdered because Philadelphia is going to drop 50 points on them. Yikes.
Yeah. Here comes a 5-touchdown pass performance out of Carson Wentz. It is going to be a blowout. I have Philadelphia as well.
I think Carson will do so much now that he may not need to do anything else for the rest of the year, and he'll still win MVP.
Next up, the Chicago Bears at the New Orleans Saints.
Alright, I initially had the Bears for this one, but good old Bill won me over on the first attempt. I'm switching my pick to the Saints. I'm going to believe in the veteran and Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, legit, really, if you want to shut down the Bears, you have to stop, Jordan Howard, and that's how you stop the Bears offense. And legit, you have Drew Brees, who, is a 39-year-old former MVP, so I got the Saints. I just can't go against Drew Brees, and he's playing really well this year. Next up, the Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots.
Alright, this one's going to be good. One of my main games to watch this week, along with that Saints game. The Patriots, I think, are going to pull this one out. Why? Because I just feel like the Chargers are going to blow a chance to win the game themselves. Because they're going to go back to that horrible formula for this week.
I think the Patriots defense is going to give up over 300 yards to a quarterback again. This is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a really high-scoring game, but I got New England winning in like a 45-38 game, something like that.
That sounds fun.
Next up, the Oakland Raiders at the Buffalo Bills.
I'm going to go with Oakland. With Derek Carr back into form, I'm hoping that Amari Cooper can bring that consistency, because if he does, you have all of a sudden the best-looking wide receiver tandem in the NFL.
And I've got the Oakland Raiders. I just think, Amari Cooper's going to go off. I think Derek Carr's going to go off. And the Bills, while they've been performing admirably, they still don't have really any wide receiver threats, and they still don't have their tight end in Charles Clay. So I got the Raiders. Okay, the Indianapolis Colts at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Phil Laser, with his dynamic Bengals offense, is going to score 40 points on this horrendous Colts defense. The Bengals are going to look like they're back.
And I've got Cincinnati as well. Cincinnati's going to really stomp on the Colts. They're not very good. Next up, the 4 o'clock games. The Houston Texans at the Seattle Seahawks.
All right, I'm going upset of the week. I mentioned one X factor, but the other X factor is, can Seattle play both sides of the game? Can they play two halves of football? If they don't, then they cannot afford that, because Houston's not going to wait on you. This offense can move, and it's going to move all over the Seahawks defense. They're giving up the only home game of the year. This is the tradition for them. This is the game. I'm going Houston.
And I just trust a little bit more Seattle's defense, though, that offensive line for Seattle is horrifically bad. I can't go away from Seattle. I mean, I see this being a close game, though.
Hey, Bill, I mean, the Seahawks are my Super Bowl pick, but that doesn't mean they can't lose some games here and there.
Oh, yeah. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys at the Washington football
This
team.
was another game I was contemplating switching my pick, but no, I'm going to stick with it. Before Zeke goes, the Cowboys are going to get one more win with him against the Washington football team.
And I'm going to go against that, and I'm going to say Washington needs this game. They need it badly. They need to, and they're going to stop Ezekiel Elliott. They have the front seven to do it. I think Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott, I think I'll trust Kirk Cousins a little bit more, and I'll go with Washington. I think it'll be a close game, though. Next up, the Sunday night football game, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Detroit Lions.
This one can also be called an upset because I'm going Detroit coming off the bye. Kenny Galladay's coming back. I'm hoping that Glover Quinn, my defensive player of the year so far, comes back. And maybe, just maybe, Golden Tate is back because all hands on deck. You need everyone's help to beat this good Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Yep. I've got the Lions defense playing really well against Le'Veon Bell. And Ben Roethlisberger is notoriously terrible on the road. So I'm picking Detroit. I got Matthew Stafford having a breakout game in this game, though it'll be close. The Monday night game, the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I mean, if the Broncos really are going to be starting Brock Osweiler, what hope do they have? They're done. Until they get Simeon back, they're done for the year.
I got Kansas City as well. Kansas City's just going. They're mad. They've been beat up upon the last 2 weeks. They're going to. They don't play well on defense this year, but you know what? That's still not. I don't trust Brock Osweiler as far as I can throw him.
Alright then, next week's Thursday night game.
Hold on, it's loading up. Alright. It is the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets.
Alright, the obligatory colorblind bowl. I'm gonna go with the Jets. The Jets are frisky enough, and I think they're gonna steal this one from Buffalo.
And I got the Buffalo Bills. I just trust them way more than the Jets, but that could be subject to change.
Alright then. That'll do for this week. We will see you guys for week 9.